guys, it's me again, and welcome to the long-awaited 500 plus to 600 subscriber special, Felix's backstory. Man, did this take a while to get out. There were a lot of flaws and stuff. It was originally going to be like something else. Like if you've read with my community posts, you guys would know that it was originally going to be a Gotcha Club mini movie, but turns out I'm really bad at making this, so I've just decided to change it, and now we're at this. Speaking of community posts, I, like, a while ago made a community post sort of explaining who exactly Felix was and how he deals with my sort of OC lore and all that good stuff, so I would highly recommend for you to check that out first before watching this video, because I'm not going to really explain like some parts that come in as much because I've already written it down on something else. So yeah, I'll leave that in the description and you can come back here once you finish reading that. Well, this has dragged on for well long enough. Without further ado, I shall finally get into this video and explain the characters that in his backstory. Before I actually tell you his whole backstory, I'm going to be showing you each character who sort of was originally going to be in the mini movie that I was making and who sort of has like an effect within the backstory itself. Oh my god, I sound like Dr. Doofenshmirtz with all this backstory talk. It was this backstory from the other backstory, not the other backstory, yada yada. Anyways, first of all, we have the man himself, Felix. Now, I made a couple designs for him, so the one you're looking at right now is his young form, then I have one where he's sort of in like a teen, and then we have the most current one where he's all crazy, the evil has completely consumed him, and he's out for revenge. So, basically what Felix is that, I'll explain this later in the backstory, and I also already explained this in the community post. He's like an evil creature. He was created from like a demon. He is a demon. He's immortal, and he just did a whole bunch of bad stuff. But we'll get more into him from the video. Now let's get into some other people in his story, the Orions. First off, we have Orla, and now if you're confused on what an Orion is, I've also explained that in the community post. That's why I said I highly recommend you read that and check that out. But I guess long story short, the Orions are like immortal creatures. They're called Orions because like sort of based off Orion's belt. I call them Orions because when I first read that, I pronounced that as Orion, but it turns out it's Orion. But like for this, I decided it'd be funny to call them the Orions. So within my lore, they are canonly called the Orions. Anyways, they get their power from like sort of like the sun, which is why they, or not the sun, the stars, and which is why they can live like they're immortal, because you know suns can live, stars can live for billions of years, and so can they. However, unlike Felix, they can die from like external causes. Now, Orla isn't technically really all that, like, all important in the story. She's just an Orion, just, like, a character I made. I was just, when I was gonna make it, I was just gonna have her just be, like, a background character just to show that the Orions live in this magical forest, mystical forest, whatever you want to call it. I like to imagine that she's, like, a sort of librarian there. She handles, like, all the books and stuff, like, history. She's, like, if you want to know something about like a creature or a place, then you would go to her. The way I created her, she was just something I drew for fun. As you know, some of you may know, I drew a picture of her a while back. I'll put that up on screen right now. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Orla. Next up, we have Roy, and he is actually one of the Orions who helped to raise Felix. It'll make more sense when I explain the video, but Felix was sort of abandoned while he was young because like he was like quote unquote monster and sort of. So when he met the Orions, Roy's one of the ones who raised him. And what Roy does is that he has this like, he's sort of, I guess, like the healer or the main magic person. I guess like he could be compared to like a wizard or something like that. He has like a magic brewing place where he makes a lot of potions, and he knows a lot about the different creatures, so he can know how to help them or how to cure them if they have some like weird magical illness, or if they're like, let's say someone is growing like a hand out of their head or something, and then he can help with that. So yeah, That's Roy. The next Orion we have is Lyra, and she is Roy's sister, and what she does is she's sort of like the adventurer. She's very adventurous. She goes out and um like collects different materials to help Roy with his potions and stuff, and like maybe like what they shielding like magic mushrooms like in the background of here, or maybe like a feather of a phoenix, or just like very adventurous and helps collect materials, just stuff like that. The final Orion that we have here is Rin, and what you may notice about him is that, unlike the others that I've showed you, Rin actually has wings. Now, the Orions are just like magical creatures, so they can board with you, like any kind of tail, any kind of horns. Roy, like you might have seen that he had a little bit of different horns. And like with Rin here, he has some like blue, like sort of horns in the back of his head. I don't know if you can see it. And he has wings, and like the wings could like help him like do different jobs in the sky, like how maybe I like to imagine that he sort of like guards the place or helps protect others. So maybe he protects them from like any sky threats and uses his wings for like that stuff. Rin is also one of the people who help Orions who raised Felix, as he is also Roy's romantic partner. So yeah, that's the final Orion. Now we have to one more very important person. However, before we get to that, I'd like to mention that yes, I did create a design for Felix's parents, but it was really just a quick design and I didn't really have an idea in mind, and I also don't really like it all that much, so I'm not really gonna show it. The final person we have here is Maria, and she is very important. As you can tell, she's a witch. Now, this was during a time period like as this story, Felix's backstory takes back like 1,000, like 500 or like hundreds of years back. But this is when there was like sort of like in real life there was like the witch trials. In my OC lore, there's like prejudice against like all magical beings, and this magical forest that they're in, which the Orions live in, is supposed to be like a safe haven for all these magical creatures or people who use magic, like Maria. So that's why she often visits this place, and she is the love interest of Felix because she sort of helps him, even though Felix doesn't trust her at first. She's very friendly towards him, and he ends up like falling for her. However, it is very sad because she does end up dying. This is a little. I'm going to explain this, like I said, more when I show you, like, explain, like, everything that fully happens within his backstory. But yeah, Felix does end up losing Maria, and this makes him very mad, and this is one of the reasons why he became, like, completely evil and after revenge. Because she ended up dying in the hands of the, like, rage of elves who were really upset with like all magic users and stuff like that. So yeah, those are all the characters that I wanted to show you that are important to the backstory. Do keep in mind that if I ever draw these characters, it's going to be very different, since there are, I guess, some limitations to like doing a gacha club and whatever I can freely do. So now let's get into describing what like more of what actually happens in the backstory. So yeah, are you ready?
Hey guys, so I explained in a video in a community post that when I actually start explaining like what happens in Felix's story, that I was gonna write out the script and basically talk along so you guys can talk, like say it and you guys can follow along. I was having trouble figuring out a visual like way to visually represent what's happening. That was what was going to be for the mini movie, but I was having a really hard time creating it, and it was also not looking good, so we're just going to do it this way. Okay, I'm going to also move this up and down so you guys can have a better way to follow along. Okay. Long ago, there was the perfect family, or Felix's parents. They had everything that they could ever dreamed of. However, the only thing that they didn't have was a child. Eventually, rumors had started to spread, and the couple was getting desperate. And desperate people are willing to take dangerous risks. That's why they say desperate people are the most dangerous people. The couple heard a story and a rumor that there is a demon who can grant you any wish in exchange for your soul, and after much thought, the couple decided that it would be worth it, even though you should never trust or make a deal with the devil. That's like The number one rule, everyone knows this. The couple traveled far and wide and took extreme measures in order to find this demon. After weeks of searching, they finally found its domain. And if you're wondering why just some like regular elves, the people in my OC lore are like elves and not like humans. So if you're confused, I'm like, wait, is it an elf? Just think of it just as like a person. I'm just saying elf since that's what they are in my story. So if you're wondering why just like anyone is able to find this demon, this story happened like over 500 to 1,000 years ago, when there wasn't really like much like technology, or like not technology, but like more improved stuff. So there wasn't really anything they could do to get rid of this demon or protect people from it. Like magic wasn't that all that advanced. Yes, there were like a lot of spells, but not everyone was able to do them. It was like only certain people, so it was really hard to keep people from seeing this demon. Also, the demon only shows itself to people who are willing to give like anything for a wish, making it hard to track down. So like basically the demon only shows up when it wants to be seen. So it's not really that easy to track it down and like find it. The couple made their offer. They wished for a baby boy in exchange for their souls. The demon agreed, and the couple told the couple that when they got home, their baby boy would be waiting for them in the house. When the couple came back home, they were excited to see their new baby. However, they would soon find out that they made a grave mistake, because this baby wasn't like any other baby. This baby had a green horn, his eyes would change from normal to red, and an unnatural spot near his left eye. This is the black spot you see on his design, and it's supposed to be sort of like the evilness. So the more the evil grows, that spot sort of grows, and the more he looks like changes, like how his horn grows bigger and all that stuff. The couple was very upset, and because this demon had tricked them, and now they have a debt to pay to the devil. The couple didn't want anyone to see that they had a monster for a son, so they kept Felix in the house, and he was only ever to play in the woods. Basically, like, he had a very sad home life. I don't really know how to explain this well. So it's like he was like neglected a little. I just don't like want to go too deep into it because it's sad. But so just so you get like a simple idea of that's just an idea. And also, while both parents disliked Felix, it was mostly his mom who was mainly upset. They both didn't really like him, but the dad was like a little bit nicer, but that doesn't like make up for anything. Like, the dad was still a bad person either way. One day when Felix was, I guess, about 8-ish, to give you an idea, so like the young design I showed you, I'll put it up on screen now. When Felix is about 8, the couple took Felix on a long walk in the woods. When they got far, they told Felix to stay there because they had something to do and that they would come back to pick him up. Hours had passed, but they never came back. When it was around midnight, Felix was still in the forest. He tried to look for his parents, but he didn't know where to go and had gotten very lost. While he continued his search, he was stopped by someone. As he turned to see who it was, he saw something magical. It was a colorful creature with tall horns and a fluffy tail. He looked around and saw the creature was alone. This is when Felix met the Orions. Long story short, sorry again, I'm sort of bad at explaining. The Orions took Felix and then raised him. The Orions lived in a magical forest where many other creatures lived. This was during a time where elves thought all creatures and magical beings, including witches, were evil and there were prejudices against them. I explained this earlier, which is why I'm sort of speeding through this part. This forest was a secret place that you can enter through a large tree, kind of like that one big tree from Totoro where Totoro sort of lives. I'm sorry if this is hard to understand. That's just probably the best comparison I can make. And this place, it kept them safe. Felix was mainly raised by Lyra, as I explained earlier, as Roy's sister, Roy, and Rin, Roy's partner. As Felix grew older, a problem started to rise. You see, because Felix was created by an evil demon, Felix had some evil inside him trying to get out, so that was like the evilness I was explaining about earlier. Every day it grew worse, and it was getting more and more difficult to contain. Roy tried everything, but since he didn't know what exactly kind of know exactly what kind of creature Felix was. The potions he made only lasted for a certain period of time. This is sort of when they met Maria. Maria was a young witch who often stayed in the magical forest to avoid harm from the outside world. She was able to combine her magic with Roy's and contain Felix's evil for much longer. They became friends, and after a while, when Felix is now a teen, I'll show the design that I showed you earlier. Felix started to develop feelings for Maria, and then Maria felt the same, and they eventually started dating. And here's this is like a little interruption, but it's like some context, and you guys would need to know. Felix had always had a dislike for elves since he hadn't had the best experience with them, but Mara was the only elf helped him. Sorry, that's a typo, which is why he doesn't dislike her as much. After a while part where I said after a while, hang on, what did I say? I don't remember what I said, but I think I forgot to delete something. But like after a while they started dating. I think I meant to say that. It's mainly really like after a few years, because it took a while before he could like fully trust Maria. And another bit of context you'll need to know for later: Felix associates with that word witches as magical beings or magic users, so he doesn't dislike them. This is current Felix, by the way. But while the other elves didn't like Maria, she never hated them back, and that was the reason why Felix was willing to give them a chance at the time being. So, back to the story. They are about the same age right now. Oh, and also you may be thinking, wait, Felix is immortal, so wouldn't Maria die before him? And the answer is yes, which is why Felix and Maria wanted to try to figure out a way where either Felix wouldn't be immortal, which was very hard, and like the option that wouldn't be realistic, or where Maria could be immortal with him. Kind of think of it like if a vampire fell in love with a human sort of ordeal, like the vampires live for a long, long time and whatnot, and they're trying to figure out a way to get like the person they fall in love with, sort of Twilight stuff. Yeah, so one day Maria, Felix, and the couple Orions left the magical forest and went into, I guess, I'm calling it the elf realm because it's technically two different realms, to get some supplies. It was around this time where there was a war going on against a magical being, which is another one of my villanoses you may learn about soon. Probably not too soon, because it took me a real long time to get this villain OC backstory out. Yeah, so basically venturing outside was very dangerous because the war, it made people dislike magical beings even more, and like fear them even more because it was starting a war and all that stuff. It all happened so suddenly. Raging elves came through the burning forest. Felix and the others were going as quickly as they could to get back to the portal into the magical forest. Many Orions were hurt and were struggling to get back. Felix had tried to help as much as he could, but he couldn't push himself too far or else his evil may come back and it would be much harder to control. He was about to enter the portal when he heard a scream. It was Maria. She was being cornered by the raging elves. However, Maria had a pitiful expression. She felt bad for these elves because they feared magic users like her, and she was sad that she would never be able to do something to change this. She looked over at Felix, who was very worried and shouting her name. All she could do was smile at Felix as she casted a powerful spell to push him back into safety in the Orion realm. "Maria, no!" shouted Felix. "Don't do this!" But it was too late. He couldn't save her. So that's what I was saying earlier when she died. She died protecting him. Just a little. Not really a big deal, not really a big problem, you know? Silence. That's what it was like for the rest of the day. Silent. Something had snapped inside of Felix. He ignored everything and just let the evil consume him. He ignored everything Maria had told him about how he should be patient with the elves and that he shouldn't hate them the way that they hated him. They took and harmed the only people that he loved, and he wanted revenge. He spent thousands of years learning magic, He spent hundreds of years learning magic, and the most complicated spells. He even figured out a way to temporarily trap someone's soul into an object and control them against their will, which is how he created the little puppet white, which is why he's the puppet master. He sneaked out of the Orion realm and cast a spell that would keep the portal closed and trapped to the magical creatures. He didn't want to see any more of his friends or family get hurt, and he especially didn't want them to see what he was about to do. So for a bit of background context, this happened like 100 years later when the people of the Royal Guard like Skylar, Luke, Grayson, Xavier, and Amber were just children, and this is what I explained in the community post, which is again why I highly recommend you check that out, because it really does give some like background context to what Felix is. Here's something that I wrote in the community post and like how he was defeated, in case you didn't read. Now, because Felix is immortal, he can't be stopped simply by being killed, so the queen, Eleanor's mother, had to cast a very powerful spell which trapped her and Felix into some void of limbo. Now, the queen isn't necessarily dead, but the chance of her ever coming back was extremely low, so she is gone, and it's basically as if she did die. She sacrificed herself to save everyone. I also have an arc where Felix returns, and now everyone must face him as an adult, but that's not important at the moment. And yeah, that's basically what happens and why Felix is evil. He was abandoned by his parents, he was created by a demon, so he has like evil inside him. He saw his family got hurt, he lost the love of his life, basically. So yeah, that's just supposed to be why he's evil. Now, here's the thing. I don't want you guys to feel bad for current Felix. You can feel bad for past Felix and everything that happened, but not for Felix right now. He's a merciless villain who won't let anything stand in his way. Over the years, the more evil consumed him, and even if he got his revenge for Maria, he would still want to hurt others because now he enjoys it. He's a psychopath. He's a sociopath, whichever one. I gave him a sad backstory to give him a reason or a motive why he is this evil. None of this should like defend him for being this evil. He could have tried hard, used this as like a way to motivate himself and, keep his evil down, like try to be kind and be helpful and stuff, even though that probably wouldn't have happened, like as you see. So yeah, this shouldn't defend him for being this evil. Now that we have finally gotten that out of the way, you guys finally know what happened with Felix. I hope you enjoyed his backstory and this very 500 subscriber, almost 600 subscribers special. Once again, thank you all so much for all of these subscribers, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.